Prepare to drift off into a world of fascinating psychological insights, carefully crafted to ease your mind and lull you into a peaceful slumber. Each fact is designed to be engaging yet calming, offering a gentle journey through the intricacies of the human mind. Get ready to relax, listen, and let your thoughts gently fade away. Fact 1. The hedonic treadmill. Have you ever noticed how chasing happiness can sometimes feel like running on a treadmill? You achieve a goal, buy something new, or experience something exciting, and for a brief period, you're elated. But then, almost inevitably, that feeling fades, and you're back to your baseline level of happiness, yearning for the next big thing. This phenomenon, my friends, is known as the hedonic treadmill or hedonic adaptation. Imagine yourself winning the lottery. Initially, you're ecstatic. You can't believe your luck, and you start dreaming about all the wonderful things you can do with your newfound wealth. You might buy a new house, a fancy car, or take that dream vacation you've always wanted. For a while, your happiness levels skyrocket. But what happens after a few months or even a year? Studies have shown that lottery winners, surprisingly, often return to their pre-winning levels of happiness. They adapt to their new circumstances, and the initial excitement wears off. The thrill of driving that fancy car becomes commonplace, and the luxury of the new house simply becomes home. The concept of the hedonic treadmill was first introduced by Brickman and Campbell in their 1971 article, Hedonic Relativism and Planning the Good Society. They argued that people tend to maintain a relatively stable level of happiness despite changes in fortune or circumstance. Our brains are wired to adapt to new situations, both positive and negative, and eventually return to a set point. This set point is influenced by a variety of factors, including genetics, personality, and past experiences. Think of it like a thermostat set to a certain temperature. When the temperature in the room changes, the thermostat kicks in to bring it back to the set point. Similarly, when our happiness levels fluctuate, our brains work to bring us back to our baseline. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds depressing. Is there any way to escape the hedonic treadmill? The good news is, yes, there are. Understanding the hedonic treadmill is the first step towards mitigating its effects. Here are a few strategies that can help you cultivate lasting happiness. Focus on experiences, not possessions. Studies have consistently shown that experiences bring more lasting happiness than material possessions. The joy of buying a new gadget might fade quickly, but the memories of a weekend trip with loved ones, a challenging hike, or a captivating concert can stay with you for years to come. Experiences often involve social connection, learning, and personal growth, all of which contribute to long-term well-being. Moreover, experiences are less likely to be compared to those of others, reducing the potential for social comparison and envy. Practice gratitude. Regularly taking the time to appreciate the good things in your life can significantly boost your happiness levels. Keep a gratitude journal. Write thank you notes to people you appreciate, or simply take a few moments each day to reflect on what you're grateful for. Gratitude helps shift your focus from what you lack to what you have, fostering a sense of contentment and appreciation. This simple practice can disrupt the hedonic treadmill by making you more aware of the positive aspects of your current situation, preventing you from constantly chasing the next source of fleeting pleasure. Cultivate meaning and purpose. Research suggests that individuals who have a strong sense of meaning and purpose in their lives tend to be happier and more resilient. Find activities that align with your values and give you a sense of purpose, whether it's volunteering, pursuing a creative passion, or working towards a meaningful goal. Having a sense of purpose provides a buffer against the ups and downs of life, giving you something to strive for beyond immediate gratification. It anchors you to something larger than yourself, making it less likely that you'll be swept away by the constant pursuit of fleeting pleasures. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment. By focusing on your breath, your senses, or your thoughts and feelings, you can become more aware of the present moment and less caught up in future anxieties or past regrets. Mindfulness can help you appreciate the simple joys of life and reduce the tendency to compare yourself to others. It allows you to savor experiences more fully and appreciate the beauty of the present moment, rather than constantly chasing after the next source of happiness. Engage in acts of kindness. Helping others has been shown to have a powerful impact on happiness. Performing acts of kindness, whether it's volunteering your time, donating to charity, or simply offering a helping hand to someone in need, can boost your mood and create a sense of connection. When you focus on helping others, you shift your attention away from your own problems and needs, which can be incredibly liberating. Moreover, acts of kindness often create a ripple effect, inspiring others to do good deeds as well. Invest in relationships. Strong social connections are essential for happiness and well-being. Spend time with loved ones, nurture your relationships, and build a strong support network. Social connection provides a sense of belonging, reduces feelings of loneliness and isolation, and provides opportunities for emotional support and companionship. Investing in your relationships is one of the most effective ways to cultivate lasting happiness, as it provides a source of joy, meaning, and support that transcends material possessions and fleeting pleasures. Embrace challenges and growth. Pursuing challenging goals and engaging in activities that promote personal growth can also contribute to happiness. Learning new skills, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and overcoming obstacles can create a sense of accomplishment and self-efficacy. When you feel like you're growing and evolving, you're less likely to become complacent and stuck on the hedonic treadmill. Embrace opportunities for learning and growth, and celebrate your achievements along the way. Adaptation is inevitable, but awareness is key. The hedonic treadmill is a natural part of the human experience. We are wired to adapt to our circumstances, both positive and negative. However, by understanding the hedonic treadmill and implementing the strategies outlined above, you can cultivate lasting happiness and avoid the trap of constantly chasing after fleeting pleasures. The key is to focus on experiences, gratitude, meaning, mindfulness, kindness, relationships, and growth. The hedonic treadmill also highlights the importance of carefully considering our values and priorities. Are we chasing after things that will truly make us happy, or are we simply caught up in a cycle of consumerism and social comparison? By aligning our actions with our values and focusing on what truly matters to us, we can break free from the hedonic treadmill and create a life of purpose and fulfillment. It encourages us to be mindful of our spending habits, our career choices, and our relationships. Are we chasing after promotions and bigger houses because we genuinely value them, or because we feel pressured by societal expectations? Are we spending enough time with our loved ones, or are we too busy chasing after material possessions? In conclusion, The hedonic treadmill is a powerful psychological phenomenon that can impact our happiness and well-being. By understanding how it works and implementing strategies to mitigate its effects, we can cultivate lasting happiness and create a more fulfilling life. Remember to focus on experiences, practice gratitude, cultivate meaning, embrace mindfulness, engage in acts of kindness, invest in relationships, and embrace challenges and growth. The journey to happiness is not about constantly chasing after the next big thing, but about appreciating the present moment and cultivating a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives. The hedonic treadmill explains why that initial joy of a new purchase or achievement fades over time. Our brains are wired to adapt. The trick to breaking free: focus on experiences, practice gratitude, find purpose, be mindful, be kind, nurture relationships, and embrace challenges. It's about finding joy in the journey, not just the destination. Think of it as shifting from seeking fleeting highs to cultivating lasting contentment. You can also think of it like a video game. When you first start a game, it is very exciting and interesting, but after a while you can start to get bored and move on to the next best game. Fact 2. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you ever encountered someone who is supremely confident in their abilities despite lacking actual competence? Or perhaps you've been guilty of overestimating your own skills in a particular area. If so, you've likely experienced or witnessed the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. This fascinating cognitive bias describes the tendency for unskilled individuals to overestimate their abilities, while highly skilled individuals tend to underestimate theirs. It's a phenomenon that can be observed in all walks of life, from the workplace to the classroom to even casual conversations. Imagine a group of people taking a test on a subject they know little about, like quantum physics. Those with the least knowledge are often the ones who believe they aced the test. They might confidently proclaim their understanding of complex concepts, even though their answers are demonstrably incorrect. Conversely, the actual experts in quantum physics are likely to be more cautious in their assessments. They recognize the vastness and complexity of the field and are more aware of their own limitations. They might even underestimate their own expertise, believing that others know just as much. The Dunning-Kruger effect was first described in a 1999 paper by David Dunning and Justin Kruger, two social psychologists at Cornell University. In their experiments, they asked participants to rate their own abilities in various areas, such as humor, grammar, and logical reasoning. They then compared these self-assessments to the participants' actual performance on tests designed to measure those abilities. The results were striking. Those who performed the worst on the tests consistently overestimated their abilities, while those who performed the best underestimated theirs. Dunning and Kruger proposed that this phenomenon arises from a combination of factors. First, unskilled individuals lack the metacognitive ability to accurately assess their own competence. In other words, they don't know what they don't know. They lack the knowledge and skills necessary to recognize their own mistakes and shortcomings. Second, highly skilled individuals are often aware of the complexities and nuances of their field and are more likely to recognize their own limitations. They are also more likely to assume that others are just as knowledgeable as they are, leading them to underestimate their own relative expertise. The Dunning-Kruger effect can have significant consequences in various domains. In the workplace, it can lead to poor decision-making, overconfidence, and a lack of self-awareness. Unskilled employees might be more likely to take on tasks they are not qualified for, leading to errors and inefficiencies. They might also be resistant to feedback, believing that they are already performing at a high level. Conversely, highly skilled employees might be hesitant to take on leadership roles, underestimating their own abilities and assuming that others are better suited for the job. In education, the Dunning-Kruger effect can hinder learning and academic progress. Students who overestimate their understanding of a subject might be less likely to seek help or study diligently, leading to poor performance on exams. They might also be more likely to dismiss feedback from teachers, believing that they are already proficient. Conversely, students who underestimate their abilities might lack confidence and motivation, hindering their potential. In social interactions, the Dunning-Kruger effect can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and miscommunication. Individuals who overestimate their abilities might be more likely to express their opinions forcefully, even when they lack the knowledge or expertise to back them up. They might also be less receptive to the ideas of others, believing that their own views are superior. Conversely, individuals who underestimate their abilities might be hesitant to express their opinions, even when they have valuable insights to share. So, how can we mitigate the Dunning-Kruger effect? Here are a few strategies that can help. Seek feedback. Actively solicit feedback from others, especially those who are knowledgeable and experienced in the area you are trying to improve. Be open to constructive criticism and use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Feedback can provide valuable insights into your strengths and weaknesses, helping you to develop a more accurate self-assessment. It's important to seek feedback from a variety of sources, including peers, supervisors, mentors, and even customers or clients. Embrace lifelong learning. Continuously strive to expand your knowledge and skills in your chosen field. Stay up to date on the latest research and developments, attend workshops and conferences, and seek out opportunities for professional development. The more you learn, the more you will realize how much you don't know, which can help to reduce the tendency to overestimate your abilities. Embrace the mindset of a lifelong learner, always seeking to expand your knowledge and understanding. Practice self-reflection. Take time to regularly reflect on your own performance and identify areas where you can improve. Ask yourself honest questions about your strengths and weaknesses, and be willing to admit when you have made mistakes. Self-reflection can help you to develop a more accurate self-assessment and identify areas where you need to focus your efforts. Consider keeping a journal to track your progress and reflect on your experiences. Develop metacognitive skills. Metacognition refers to the ability to think about your own thinking. Develop strategies for monitoring your own understanding, identifying gaps in your knowledge, and regulating your learning. Metacognitive skills can help you to become more aware of your own cognitive processes and improve your ability to learn and solve problems. Practice techniques such as self-questioning, summarizing, and teaching others to enhance your metacognitive abilities. Cultivate humility. Approach learning and skill development with a sense of humility. Recognize that you will never know everything and that there is always room for improvement. Be open to learning from others, even those who have less experience than you. Humility can help you to avoid overconfidence and maintain a realistic assessment of your own abilities. Remember that even the most skilled individuals have areas where they can improve. Focus on evidence. Base your assessments of your own abilities on objective evidence, such as test scores, performance reviews, and project outcomes. Avoid relying solely on subjective feelings of confidence or intuition. Objective evidence can provide a more accurate and reliable picture of your strengths and weaknesses. Keep track of your accomplishments and use them as a basis for evaluating your progress. Be wary of experts. While it's important to seek guidance from experts, be aware that even experts can be subject to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Don't blindly accept everything that an expert tells you. Instead, critically evaluate their claims and look for evidence to support their conclusions. Remember that expertise is not a guarantee of infallibility. Even the most knowledgeable individuals can make mistakes or hold biased views. In conclusion, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a pervasive cognitive bias that can affect individuals in all walks of life. By understanding this phenomenon and implementing the strategies outlined above, we can mitigate its effects and develop a more accurate self-assessment. Remember to seek feedback, embrace lifelong learning, practice self-reflection, develop metacognitive skills, cultivate humility, focus on evidence, and be wary of experts. The journey to self-awareness is a lifelong process, and it requires a willingness to challenge our own assumptions and biases. The Dunning-Kruger effect basically means that the less you know about something, the more confident you are, while experts are often more humble about their knowledge. To combat this, actively seek feedback, keep learning, reflect on your performance, and stay humble. Remember, it's okay to not know everything, and there's always room to grow. The key is to be self-aware and open to learning. Like Socrates said, "I know that I know nothing." Fact 3. The Zeigarnik effect. Have you ever found yourself unable to shake a song from your head? Or felt a persistent urge to finish a task, even if it's relatively unimportant? This nagging feeling might be attributed to a fascinating psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect. In essence, the Zeigarnik effect describes our tendency to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. This can manifest in various ways, from a lingering sense of unease when a project is left unfinished, to the persistent recall of a cliffhanger in a TV show. It's a subtle but powerful force that influences our attention, motivation, and memory. Imagine you're in the middle of reading a captivating novel, completely engrossed in the story. Suddenly, you're interrupted by a phone call or an urgent errand. Even after you've finished the call or completed the errand, your mind might still be drawn back to the book, wondering what happens next. This persistent pull is a prime example of the Zeigarnik effect in action. The interruption created an unfinished task, which your mind is now compelled to complete. The Zeigarnik effect was first identified by Bluma Zeigarnik, a Lithuanian psychologist, in the 1920s. While observing waiters in a busy restaurant, Zeigarnik noticed that they could easily remember complex orders that were still in progress but struggled to recall orders that had already been delivered and paid for. Intrigued by this observation, Zeigarnik conducted a series of experiments to investigate the phenomenon further. In her experiments, she asked participants to perform a series of simple tasks, such as solving puzzles or completing arithmetic problems. Some of the tasks were interrupted before completion, while others were allowed to be finished. The results consistently showed that participants were significantly better at recalling the interrupted tasks compared to the completed ones. Zeigarnik proposed that this effect arises from a state of cognitive tension or arousal that is created when a task is interrupted. This tension motivates us to return to the task and complete it, Once the task is completed, the tension is released and the memory fades. Think of it like a mental itch that needs to be scratched. The interruption creates the itch, and completing the task provides the relief. The Zeigarnik effect has a number of practical implications for our daily lives. In the context of productivity, it suggests that breaking down large tasks into smaller, manageable chunks can be an effective way to stay motivated. By completing each smaller task, you experience a sense of accomplishment that can fuel your momentum. However, if you interrupt yourself frequently, you may find that the Zeigarnik effect can become a source of distraction, as your mind is constantly drawn back to the unfinished tasks. In the realm of advertising and marketing, the Zeigarnik effect is often used to create suspense and intrigue. Advertisements that end with a cliffhanger or a question mark can linger in our minds long after we've seen them. This is because the incomplete message creates a sense of cognitive tension that motivates us to seek out the missing information. Similarly, TV shows and movies often employ cliffhangers at the end of episodes to keep viewers engaged and eager to tune in next week. The Zeigarnik effect can also play a role in our interpersonal relationships. Unresolved conflicts or unexpressed feelings can create a sense of cognitive tension that lingers in our minds and affects our interactions with others. It's often said that unresolved issues can fester over time, and this is partly due to the Zeigarnik effect. By addressing conflicts and expressing our feelings, we can release this tension and move forward in our relationships. So, how can we harness the power of the Zeigarnik effect to our advantage? Here are a few strategies. Use it to boost productivity. When faced with a daunting task, break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. Start working on the first step and then allow yourself to be interrupted. The Zeigarnik effect will create a lingering sense of unease that will motivate you to return to the task and complete it. This can be a particularly effective strategy for overcoming procrastination. By starting the task, even if you don't finish it right away, you're more likely to return to it later. Avoid overscheduling. While the Zeigarnik effect can be a powerful motivator, it can also become a source of distraction if you have too many unfinished tasks vying for your attention. Avoid overscheduling yourself and try to focus on completing one task at a time before moving on to the next. This will help to minimize the cognitive tension and reduce the risk of feeling overwhelmed. Embrace closure. When possible, strive to complete tasks and projects to a satisfactory conclusion. This will release the cognitive tension and allow you to move on without feeling a lingering sense of unease. Closure can be particularly important for tasks that are emotionally charged or personally meaningful. Taking the time to properly complete these tasks can provide a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. Be mindful of interruptions. Pay attention to how interruptions affect your concentration and productivity. If you find that you're easily distracted by unfinished tasks, try to minimize interruptions as much as possible. This might involve setting aside dedicated time for focused work, turning off notifications, or finding a quiet workspace where you won't be disturbed. Use it for learning. The Zeigarnik effect can also be used to enhance learning and memory. When studying new material, try interrupting your study sessions at strategic points. This will create a sense of cognitive tension that will motivate you to review the material and fill in the gaps in your knowledge. This technique can be particularly effective for memorizing lists or learning complex concepts. In advertising and marketing, the Zeigarnik effect plays a vital role in how advertisements catch our attention and stay in our memory. By ending commercials with a question or a teaser, marketers create a mental gap that our minds naturally want to close. This technique is especially effective in digital advertising, where click-through rates can be significantly increased by creating a sense of mystery or incompleteness. The Zeigarnik effect is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that highlights our innate drive for completion. By understanding this effect and harnessing its power, we can boost our productivity, enhance our learning, and improve our overall well-being. Remember to break down large tasks, avoid overscheduling, embrace closure, be mindful of interruptions, and use it to your advantage in learning. The key is to find a balance between leveraging the motivating power of unfinished tasks and avoiding the distractions that can arise from having too many projects in progress. Fact 4. The bystander effect. Have you ever wondered why, in crowded situations where someone needs help, people often hesitate to intervene? It seems counterintuitive, but the presence of more people can actually decrease the likelihood that any one individual will offer assistance. This phenomenon, known as the bystander effect, is a chilling reminder of the diffusion of responsibility and the powerful influence of social dynamics on our behavior. Imagine you're walking down a busy city street and you witness someone collapse on the sidewalk. A crowd begins to gather, but no one seems to be doing anything to help. People might be staring, whispering, or even recording the scene on their phones, but no one steps forward to offer assistance. You might wonder why so many people are standing idly by, but the bystander effect provides a compelling explanation. The bystander effect gained widespread attention following the tragic murder of Kitty Genovese in 1964. Genovese was brutally attacked outside her apartment building in New York City. While the attack lasted for over 30 minutes, and at least 38 neighbors reportedly heard or witnessed the crime, no one called the police until after she had died. This shocking event sparked intense research into the factors that influence bystander intervention. Two social psychologists, Bibb Latané and John Darley, conducted a series of experiments to investigate the bystander effect. In one classic study, participants were placed in separate cubicles and asked to discuss their personal problems over an intercom system. Some participants were told that they were the only person talking to the victim, while others were told that there were other participants listening in as well. During the discussion, the victim would feign a seizure, pleading for help. The researchers found that participants who believed they were the only witness were much more likely to offer assistance than those who believed there were other bystanders. Latané and Darley identified several key factors that contribute to the bystander effect. Diffusion of responsibility. This is perhaps the most significant factor. When multiple bystanders are present, individuals tend to feel less personal responsibility to intervene. They assume that someone else will take action, or that someone else is better qualified to help. This diffusion of responsibility can lead to a collective inaction, where everyone waits for someone else to take the lead. Pluralistic ignorance. This refers to the tendency for individuals to look to others for cues on how to behave in an ambiguous situation. If no one else seems concerned or alarmed, individuals may conclude that the situation is not an emergency, even if they have doubts. This can lead to a situation where everyone is privately concerned but publicly indifferent. Think of it as everyone looking around, thinking, if no one else is worried, I shouldn't be either. Evaluation apprehension. This refers to the fear of being judged or ridiculed by others for intervening. Individuals may be hesitant to offer assistance if they are worried about making a mistake, appearing foolish, or facing negative consequences. This fear can be particularly strong in public settings, where individuals are more likely to be observed and evaluated by others. Lack of competence. Individuals may be less likely to intervene if they feel they lack the skills or knowledge necessary to help effectively. For example, someone who has never performed CPR might be hesitant to offer assistance to a person who has collapsed, fearing that they might do more harm than good. Relationship between bystander and victim. Studies have also shown that people are more likely to help if they know the victim. A friend, family member, or even someone who appears similar to the bystander will receive help more readily than a stranger. So, how can we overcome the bystander effect and increase the likelihood of intervention in emergency situations? Here are a few strategies. Recognize the effect. Simply being aware of the bystander effect can make you more likely to intervene. Understanding the factors that contribute to the effect can help you to overcome the psychological barriers that prevent you from taking action. Remind yourself that even if others are present, you still have a responsibility to help. Assume personal responsibility. Resist the temptation to assume that someone else will take care of the situation. Remind yourself that you are capable of making a difference and that your actions can have a positive impact. Take ownership of the situation and commit to doing what you can to help. Overcome pluralistic ignorance. Don't rely on the reactions of others to determine whether a situation is an emergency. Trust your own instincts and assess the situation for yourself. If you have any doubts, err on the side of caution and take action. Reduce evaluation apprehension. Remind yourself that it's better to try to help and make a mistake than to do nothing at all. Don't worry about what others might think of you. Focus on the needs of the victim and do what you can to provide assistance. Directly designate someone. Instead of asking, "Does anyone know CPR?" Point directly at someone and say, "You, in the blue shirt, do you know CPR?" This assigns responsibility to a specific individual, making them more likely to act. Call for help. Even if you don't feel qualified to provide direct assistance, you can still help by calling for emergency services. Provide clear and accurate information about the situation and the location. Your call can make a critical difference in getting the victim the help they need. Educate others. Share your knowledge of the bystander effect with your friends, family, and colleagues. The more people who are aware of this phenomenon, the more likely they are to intervene in emergency situations. The bystander effect is a powerful psychological phenomenon that can have devastating consequences. By understanding the factors that contribute to the effect and implementing the strategies outlined above, we can overcome the psychological barriers that prevent us from taking action and create a more compassionate and responsive society. Remember, you have the power to make a difference. Don't be a bystander. Be an active participant in helping others. Fact 5: the placebo effect. Have you ever taken a sugar pill and felt your symptoms improve simply because you believed it was real medicine? Or perhaps experienced relief from pain after receiving a sham treatment? This remarkable phenomenon, known as the placebo effect, highlights the powerful influence of our minds on our bodies. It demonstrates that our beliefs and expectations can have a tangible impact on our physical and psychological well-being. Imagine you're participating in a clinical trial for a new pain medication. You're randomly assigned to receive either the active drug or a placebo, an inactive substance like a sugar pill. You're told that the medication has been shown to be effective in reducing pain. After taking the pill, you notice that your pain starts to subside. You feel more relaxed and comfortable. What you may not know is that you received the placebo, yet your body responded as if you had taken the real medication. The placebo effect has been observed in a wide range of conditions, including pain, depression, anxiety, fatigue, and even Parkinson's disease. It's not simply a matter of thinking you feel better. The placebo effect can trigger measurable physiological changes in the brain and body. Studies have shown that placebos can release endorphins, natural pain relievers, activate the brain's reward system, and even modulate the immune system. The term placebo comes from the Latin word placebo, which means "I shall please." Placebos have been used in medicine for centuries, often as a way to appease patients or provide them with a sense of hope when no effective treatments were available. However, it wasn't until the mid-20th century that scientists began to seriously investigate the underlying mechanisms of the placebo effect. One of the pioneering researchers in this area was Henry Beecher, an anesthesiologist who served in World War II. Beecher observed that soldiers who received saline injections for pain relief often reported significant improvements, even though the saline had no inherent analgesic properties. This led him to conclude that the power of belief and expectation could be a potent force in alleviating pain. Several factors contribute to the placebo effect. Expectation. This is perhaps the most important factor. When we expect a treatment to be effective, our brains release chemicals that can actually produce the desired effect. The more confident we are in the treatment, the stronger the placebo effect is likely to be. Conditioning. This refers to the process of learning to associate a particular stimulus with a specific outcome. For example, if you've had positive experiences with a certain medication in the past, you may be more likely to experience a placebo effect when taking a similar-looking pill, even if it's inactive. Social learning. This involves learning from the experiences of others. If you see others benefiting from a particular treatment, you may be more likely to experience a placebo effect yourself. This can explain why the placebo effect is often stronger in group settings. The doctor-patient relationship, a positive and trusting relationship with a healthcare provider, can also enhance the placebo effect. When we feel cared for and supported, we are more likely to believe in the effectiveness of the treatment. Ritual and symbolism. The rituals and symbols associated with medical treatment can also contribute to the placebo effect. For example, the act of taking a pill, receiving an injection, or undergoing a medical procedure can create a sense of anticipation and hope, which can trigger the release of endorphins and other beneficial chemicals. So, how can we harness the power of the placebo effect in our own lives? Here are a few strategies. Cultivate a positive mindset. Focus on the positive aspects of your life and cultivate a sense of optimism and hope. Studies have shown that positive emotions can boost the immune system and reduce pain. Practice gratitude. Regularly taking the time to appreciate the good things in your life can enhance your sense of well-being and make you more resilient to stress. Engage in self-care. Prioritize activities that promote your physical and mental health, such as exercise, healthy eating, adequate sleep, and relaxation techniques. Seek social support. Build strong relationships with friends, family, and other supportive individuals. Social connection can buffer against stress and enhance your sense of belonging. Believe in your ability to heal. Cultivate a belief in your body's natural healing abilities. Remind yourself that you are strong and resilient and that you have the power to overcome challenges. Choose your healthcare providers wisely. Seek out healthcare providers who are compassionate, caring, and supportive. A positive and trusting relationship with your doctor can enhance the effectiveness of your treatment. Be mindful of your expectations. Pay attention to your expectations about medical treatments. Avoid dwelling on negative possibilities and focus on the potential benefits. Use it ethically. The placebo effect shouldn't be used to deceive or withhold treatment. It's vital to always be honest and upfront with healthcare options. The placebo effect is a remarkable demonstration of the power of the mind-body connection. By understanding the factors that contribute to the placebo effect and implementing the strategies outlined above, we can harness its power to enhance our health and well-being. Remember, your beliefs and expectations can have a profound impact on your physical and psychological health. Cultivate a positive mindset, engage in self-care, seek social support, and believe in your ability to heal. Fact 6. Confirmation bias. Have you ever noticed how easily we tend to accept information that confirms our existing beliefs, while simultaneously dismissing or downplaying information that contradicts them? This pervasive cognitive bias, known as confirmation bias, can subtly shape our perceptions, influence our decisions, and even polarize our opinions. It's a natural human tendency, but understanding it is crucial for critical thinking and open-mindedness. Imagine you hold a strong belief about a particular political issue, let's say, the effectiveness of a certain economic policy. You actively seek out news articles, opinion pieces, and social media posts that support your viewpoint. You might share these articles with your friends and engage in discussions that reinforce your belief. At the same time, you might avoid or dismiss articles that present opposing viewpoints, labeling them as fake news or biased. This selective exposure to information is a classic example of confirmation bias in action. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports one's prior beliefs or values. It's a type of cognitive bias, which is a systematic pattern of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. Cognitive biases are often unconscious and can lead to errors in thinking, decision-making, and perception. Confirmation bias can manifest in various ways. Selective exposure. Actively seeking out information that confirms one's beliefs and avoiding information that contradicts them. This can lead to an echo chamber effect, where individuals are only exposed to viewpoints that align with their own. Biased interpretation. Interpreting ambiguous information in a way that supports one's beliefs. This can involve selectively focusing on certain aspects of the information while ignoring others, or reinterpreting the information to fit one's pre-existing worldview. Selective memory. Recalling information that confirms one's beliefs more easily than information that contradicts them. This can lead to a distorted perception of the past, where individuals remember events in a way that supports their current beliefs. Assimilation bias. The tendency to assimilate new information to fit pre-existing beliefs, even if the new information contradicts those beliefs. This can involve distorting or reinterpreting the new information to make it consistent with one's existing worldview. Confirmation bias can have significant consequences in various domains. Politics. Confirmation bias can contribute to political polarization and gridlock. Individuals are more likely to support politicians and policies that align with their existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are based on misinformation or flawed reasoning. Science. Confirmation bias can hinder scientific progress. Researchers may be more likely to favor results that support their hypotheses, even if the evidence is weak or contradictory. Medicine. Confirmation bias can affect medical diagnoses and treatment decisions. Doctors may be more likely to diagnose patients with conditions that fit their pre-existing beliefs, even if the symptoms are ambiguous. Finance. Confirmation bias can lead to poor investment decisions. Investors may be more likely to invest in stocks that they already believe are promising, even if the objective data suggests otherwise. Personal relationships. Confirmation bias can strain personal relationships. Individuals may be more likely to focus on the negative aspects of their partner's behavior while ignoring the positive aspects, leading to resentment and conflict. So, how can we mitigate the effects of confirmation bias? Here are a few strategies. Be aware of your biases. The first step is to recognize that everyone is susceptible to confirmation bias. Be aware of your own beliefs and values and how they might be influencing your perceptions. Actively seek out opposing viewpoints. Make a conscious effort to expose yourself to information that challenges your beliefs. Read articles from different perspectives, listen to opinions that differ from your own, and engage in respectful discussions with people who hold different viewpoints. Question your assumptions. Regularly challenge your own assumptions and beliefs. Ask yourself why you believe what you believe and whether there is any evidence that contradicts your beliefs. Consider alternative explanations. When evaluating information, consider alternative explanations for the data. Don't jump to conclusions that support your existing beliefs. Look for evidence that disconfirms your beliefs. Actively search for evidence that contradicts your beliefs. This can be a difficult and uncomfortable process, but it's essential for critical thinking. Seek feedback from others. Ask others to critique your thinking and point out any biases they might see. Be open to constructive criticism and use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Embrace intellectual humility. Recognize that you don't know everything and that your beliefs might be wrong. Be willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence. Slow down your thinking. Confirmation bias often operates unconsciously and automatically. Slow down your thinking and take the time to carefully evaluate information before forming an opinion. Confirmation bias is a pervasive cognitive bias that can distort our perceptions, influence our decisions, and polarize our opinions. By understanding this bias and implementing the strategies outlined above, we can become more critical thinkers, more open-minded individuals, and more effective decision-makers. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate all biases, but to be aware of them and to take steps to mitigate their effects. Fact 7. Cognitive dissonance. Have you ever found yourself holding two conflicting beliefs or values and felt a sense of discomfort or unease as a result? This feeling of psychological tension is known as cognitive dissonance, and it's a powerful motivator that drives us to reduce the inconsistency and restore a sense of internal harmony. It's a common human experience, and understanding it can provide valuable insights into our behavior and decision-making processes. Imagine you're a smoker who is aware of the health risks associated with smoking. You know that smoking increases your risk of cancer, heart disease, and other serious illnesses. However, you continue to smoke because you enjoy it, it helps you relax, or you're addicted to nicotine. This creates a state of cognitive dissonance, where you hold two conflicting beliefs. Smoking is bad for my health, and I enjoy smoking. This inconsistency creates psychological tension that you're motivated to reduce. Cognitive dissonance was first proposed by Leon Festinger, a social psychologist, in the 1950s. Festinger argued that people have a fundamental need for cognitive consistency, and that when they experience inconsistency, they are motivated to reduce the dissonance and restore a sense of balance. Cognitive dissonance can arise in a variety of situations. When making a difficult decision, after choosing between two equally attractive options, we may experience dissonance because we recognize the positive aspects of the option we rejected and the negative aspects of the option we chose. When engaging in behavior that contradicts our beliefs, as in the smoking example, engaging in behavior that conflicts with our values or beliefs can create dissonance. When encountering information that challenges our beliefs, when we are exposed to information that contradicts our deeply held beliefs, we may experience dissonance. When experiencing a negative outcome after making a choice, if we make a decision that leads to a negative outcome, we may experience dissonance because we question whether we made the right choice. To reduce cognitive dissonance, people may employ various strategies. Change one of the cognitions. This involves changing one of the conflicting beliefs to make it more consistent with the other. For example, a smoker might convince themselves that the health risks of smoking are exaggerated or that they will quit soon. Add new cognitions. This involves adding new beliefs or justifications that support the behavior or belief that is causing the dissonance. For example, a smoker might argue that smoking helps them cope with stress, or that it's a social activity that allows them to connect with others. Reduce the importance of the conflicting cognitions. This involves downplaying the importance of the conflicting beliefs or values. For example, a smoker might argue that health is not the most important thing in life or that they are willing to take the risks associated with smoking. Change the behavior. This involves changing the behavior that is causing the dissonance. For example, a smoker might quit smoking. The specific strategy that people use to reduce cognitive dissonance depends on a variety of factors, including the strength of the conflicting beliefs, the availability of alternative justifications, and the individual's personality and values. Cognitive dissonance can have a significant impact on our behavior and decision-making processes. Rationalization of choices. We tend to rationalize our choices after we've made them, even if the choices were not optimal. This helps us to reduce dissonance and maintain a positive self-image. Justification of effort. We tend to value things more highly if we have worked hard to obtain them. This is because putting in effort creates dissonance if the outcome is not valuable. To reduce dissonance, we convince ourselves that the outcome is worth the effort. Persuasion. Cognitive dissonance can be used to persuade people to change their attitudes or behaviors. By creating dissonance in someone's mind, you can motivate them to adopt a new belief or behavior that reduces the dissonance. So, how can we use our understanding of cognitive dissonance to improve our lives? Here are a few suggestions. Be aware of your own dissonance. Pay attention to the times when you feel psychological tension or discomfort. This may be a sign that you're experiencing cognitive dissonance. Challenge your rationalizations. When you find yourself rationalizing your behavior, ask yourself whether you're being honest with yourself or whether you're simply trying to reduce dissonance. Be open to changing your mind. Be willing to reconsider your beliefs and values when presented with new information. Don't be afraid to admit that you were wrong. Make choices that align with your values. Strive to make choices that are consistent with your values and beliefs. This will help to reduce the likelihood of experiencing cognitive dissonance. Practice self-compassion. When you make a mistake or engage in behavior that you regret, be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that everyone experiences cognitive dissonance and that it's a normal part of the human experience. Cognitive dissonance is a powerful psychological phenomenon that can influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. By understanding this phenomenon and implementing the strategies outlined above, we can become more self-aware, more rational decision-makers, and more compassionate individuals. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate all dissonance, but to be aware of it and to manage it in a healthy and constructive way. Fact 8. The IKEA effect. Have you ever spent hours assembling a piece of furniture only to feel an irrational sense of attachment to it, even if it's not particularly well made? Or perhaps you felt a surge of pride after completing a DIY project, despite the fact that it might not be perfect? This phenomenon, known as the IKEA effect, highlights our tendency to overvalue things we've created or assembled ourselves. It's a fascinating insight into the psychology of effort and ownership. Imagine you've just spent an entire afternoon assembling a bookshelf from IKEA. The instructions were confusing, the screws were tiny, and you almost gave up several times. But finally, after much frustration and effort, the bookshelf is complete. You might find yourself feeling a sense of accomplishment and pride, even if the bookshelf is a bit wobbly or the finish isn't perfect. You might even think it looks better than it actually does. This is the IKEA effect in action. The IKEA effect was first identified and named by Michael Norton, Daniel Moshon, and Dan Ariely in a 2011 paper titled The IKEA Effect: When Labor Leads to Love. In their experiments, they asked participants to assemble IKEA boxes, fold origami, or build Lego sets. They then asked participants to evaluate the value of their creations compared to similar items that were pre-assembled or made by others. The results consistently showed that participants valued their own creations more highly than identical items that were assembled by someone else or pre-assembled. The researchers proposed that the IKEA effect arises from a combination of factors. Effort justification. We tend to value things more highly if we have invested time and effort into creating them. This is because we want to justify the effort we've expended, and one way to do that is to convince ourselves that the outcome is valuable. Feelings of competence. Completing a task, even a simple one, can create a sense of competence and accomplishment. This feeling of competence can boost our self-esteem and make us feel more positive about the things we've created. Sense of ownership. When we create something ourselves, we feel a sense of ownership over it. This sense of ownership can increase our attachment to the item and make us value it more highly. The endowment effect, a cognitive bias that describes the tendency to overvalue things we own, regardless of their objective market value. The IKEA effect has implications in a variety of domains. Marketing and consumer behavior. Companies can use the IKEA effect to increase customer loyalty and sales. By allowing customers to customize or assemble their own products, companies can increase their sense of ownership and attachment to the brand. Employee motivation. Managers can use the IKEA effect to motivate employees. By giving employees more autonomy and control over their work, managers can increase their sense of ownership and engagement. Education. Teachers can use the IKEA effect to enhance student learning. By involving students in hands-on activities and projects, Teachers can increase their engagement and understanding of the material. Personal relationships. The IKEA effect can even play a role in personal relationships. When we invest time and effort into building a relationship, we tend to value it more highly. So, how can we use our understanding of the IKEA effect to improve our lives? Here are a few suggestions. Embrace DIY projects. Engage in DIY projects, whether it's building furniture, crafting gifts, or cooking from scratch. The effort you invest will increase your sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. Get involved in your work. Take on projects that challenge you and allow you to use your skills and creativity. The more involved you are in your work, the more engaged and fulfilled you will feel. Build strong relationships. Invest time and effort into building strong relationships with friends, family, and romantic partners. The effort you put into these relationships will make them more meaningful and rewarding. Appreciate the value of effort. Recognize that the things you work hard for are often the most valuable. Don't be afraid to put in the effort to achieve your goals. Be aware of the bias. Be aware that you may be overvaluing things that you've created yourself. Try to be objective in your assessment of your creations, and don't be afraid to seek feedback from others. The IKEA effect is a fascinating psychological phenomenon that highlights the power of effort and ownership. By understanding this effect and implementing the suggestions outlined above, we can increase our sense of accomplishment, enhance our motivation, and build stronger relationships. Remember, the things we work hard for are often the most rewarding. Fact 9. Loss aversion. Have you ever felt the pain of losing something more intensely than the joy of gaining something of equal value? This common human tendency, known as loss aversion, highlights our tendency to be more sensitive to losses than to gains. It's a powerful bias that influences our decisions in a variety of contexts, from financial investments to everyday choices. Imagine you are offered a choice. Either receive $100 or flip a coin. If the coin lands on heads, you get $200. If it lands on tails, you get nothing. Many people would take the guaranteed $100. Now imagine you are given a different choice. Either lose $100 or flip a coin. If the coin lands on heads, you lose $200. If it lands on tails, you lose nothing. In this scenario, many people would choose to flip the coin, even though the expected value is the same as in the first scenario. The reason for this difference is loss aversion. Loss aversion was first identified and studied by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, two pioneering psychologists who won the Nobel Prize in Economics for their work on behavioral economics. In their research, they found that people tend to feel the pain of a loss about twice as strongly as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. This asymmetry in our emotional responses has a profound impact on our decision-making. Loss aversion can manifest in various ways. The endowment effect. This is the tendency to overvalue things we own simply because we own them. Loss aversion contributes to the endowment effect because giving up something we own feels like a loss, and we are more sensitive to losses than to gains. The sunk cost fallacy. This is the tendency to continue investing in a losing project or endeavor simply because we have already invested so much time, money, or effort. Loss aversion makes it difficult to cut our losses because we don't want to admit that our previous investments were a waste. Risk aversion. Loss aversion can lead to risk aversion, particularly when it comes to investments. People are often reluctant to invest in risky assets because they are more concerned about the potential for losses than they are about the potential for gains. Status quo bias. Loss aversion can contribute to the status quo bias, which is the tendency to prefer the current state of affairs, even if there are better alternatives available. People are often reluctant to change because they fear the potential losses associated with change. Loss aversion has implications in a variety of domains. Finance. Loss aversion can lead to poor investment decisions, such as holding on to losing stocks for too long or selling winning stocks too early. Marketing. Marketers can use loss aversion to influence consumer behavior. For example, they might emphasize the potential losses associated with not buying their product or service. Negotiation. Loss aversion can affect negotiation outcomes. People are often more motivated to avoid losses than they are to achieve gains, which can give them a disadvantage in negotiations. Public policy. Loss aversion can influence public policy decisions. For example, people may be more resistant to policies that require them to give up something, even if the overall benefits of the policy are greater than the costs. So, how can we mitigate the effects of loss aversion? Here are a few strategies. Be aware of the bias. The first step is to recognize that loss aversion is a common human tendency. Be aware of your own sensitivity to losses and how it might be influencing your decisions. Focus on the big picture. When making decisions, try to focus on the long-term gains rather than the immediate losses. This can help you to overcome the emotional impact of loss aversion. Reframe losses as opportunities. Try to reframe losses as opportunities for learning and growth. This can help you to reduce the negative emotions associated with loss. Seek advice from others. Ask others for their opinions on your decisions. They may be able to provide a more objective perspective and help you to see the potential gains that you are overlooking. Avoid emotional decision-making. Try to make decisions based on logic and reason rather than emotions. This can help you to avoid the pitfalls of loss aversion. Use mental accounting strategically. Group several smaller losses together or separate larger gains into smaller increments. This psychological trick can help to lessen the emotional sting of losses and amplify the joy of gains. Loss aversion is the tendency to feel the pain of a loss more strongly than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. Be aware of this bias. Focus on the big picture. Reframe losses as opportunities. Seek advice from others, and avoid emotional decision-making. It's about making rational choices and not letting the fear of loss dictate your actions. So next time you're faced with a decision, take a deep breath, consider the potential gains and losses objectively, and choose the path that makes the most sense in the long run. Now you know that you are not the only one who feels this way, and it's okay to feel this way. Fact 10. The spotlight effect. Have you ever felt like everyone is watching you, scrutinizing your every move, and noticing every flaw? Perhaps you've hesitated to try something new because you were afraid of making a mistake in front of others. Or maybe you've spent an excessive amount of time worrying about your appearance before going out in public. If so, you've likely experienced the spotlight effect, a cognitive bias that leads us to overestimate the extent to which others notice and care about our appearance and behavior. Imagine you are walking into a party wearing a slightly embarrassing t-shirt. You might feel self-conscious and worry that everyone will notice the shirt and judge you for it. You might even imagine people whispering about you behind your back. However, in reality, most people are probably not paying much attention to your shirt at all. They are likely focused on their own conversations, their own appearances, and their own concerns. This is the spotlight effect in action. The spotlight effect was first identified and studied by Thomas Gilovich, Kenneth Savitsky, and Victoria H. Medvec in a 2000 paper titled The Spotlight Effect in Social Judgment: An Egocentric Bias in Estimates of the Salience of One's Own Actions and Appearance. In their experiments, they asked participants to wear an embarrassing t-shirt featuring a picture of Barry Manilow and then walk into a room full of other students. The researchers then asked the participants to estimate how many people in the room had noticed their t-shirt. The participants consistently overestimated the number of people who had noticed the shirt. The researchers proposed that the spotlight effect arises from an egocentric bias, which is the tendency to focus on our own thoughts and feelings and to assume that others share our perspective. We are constantly aware of our own actions and appearance, so we tend to overestimate the extent to which others are also paying attention to us. Several factors can contribute to the spotlight effect. Self-consciousness. People who are more self-conscious are more likely to experience the spotlight effect. They are more aware of their own actions and appearance and therefore more likely to assume that others are also paying attention to them. Anxiety. Anxiety can amplify the spotlight effect. When we are anxious, we are more likely to focus on potential threats and negative evaluations from others. Novelty. The spotlight effect is more pronounced when we are doing something new or unusual. When we step outside of our comfort zone, we tend to be more self-conscious and worry about how others will perceive us. Social context. The spotlight effect can be influenced by the social context. For example, we may be more likely to experience the spotlight effect in situations where we feel like we are being evaluated, such as a job interview or a public speaking engagement. The spotlight effect can have a negative impact on our lives. Social anxiety. It can contribute to social anxiety, which is the fear of being judged or negatively evaluated by others. Self-esteem issues. It can lead to self-esteem issues, as we may become overly critical of ourselves and our appearance. Avoidance behavior. It can lead to avoidance behavior, as we may avoid situations where we feel like we will be in the spotlight. Missed opportunities. The anxiety associated with the spotlight effect may cause us to miss out on opportunities or new experience. So, how can we mitigate the effects of the spotlight effect? Here are a few strategies. Be aware of the bias. The first step is to recognize that the spotlight effect is a common human tendency. Be aware of your tendency to overestimate the extent to which others are paying attention to you. Challenge your assumptions. Challenge your assumptions about what others are thinking and feeling. Remind yourself that most people are probably focused on their own thoughts and concerns. Focus on others. Shift your focus from yourself to others. Pay attention to what they are saying and doing, and try to understand their perspective. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself and accept your imperfections. Remind yourself that everyone makes mistakes and that it's okay to not be perfect. Seek feedback from others. Ask others for their honest opinions about your appearance and behavior. They may be able to provide a more objective perspective and help you to see that you are not as noticeable as you think. Take risks. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone and try new things. The more you expose yourself to situations that trigger the spotlight effect, the less anxious you will become. The spotlight effect makes us think everyone is noticing our flaws more than they actually are. To combat this, be aware of the bias, challenge your assumptions, focus on others, practice self-compassion, and seek feedback. Remember, people are mostly focused on themselves. This will help you feel less self-conscious and more comfortable being yourself. Just relax and remember that most people are not as concerned with your actions or appearance as you might think.